Hi, this is guitar class, beginning. We're going to jump right in. Here's how the structure is going to work from today until the very last session. You will watch 5 minutes of my content, and after that you will pause the video and take 5 minutes to practice the material on your own. If you have any comments or questions, those 5 minutes during the pause section are a good time for you to do that. Now, let's get right into it. So this is the introduction. This is guitar. Some of you have some experience, some of you have none. Some of you are already like Jimi Hendrix, in which case, what are you doing here? So, let's talk about the structure of the guitar. Your guitar may look something like this, okay? This is a standard dreadnought body acoustic guitar. Some of you will be playing on an electric guitar. You can tell that it's electric because it's usually a little bit heavier than acoustic guitars, but of course it depends on the body. This right here is called the headstock. Now, attached to this headstock are these pegs. They're called tuning pegs. Now, the strings will go into those pegs and get tightened in place. So when we get to the tuning section, you're going to use these pegs to tune each of these strings. And there are 6. 6 strings. If you're playing with a 12-string guitar, that's great. We're going to focus on 6. If you're playing a ukulele, that's great. Chances are you're going to use 4 strings, but we're going to have an extra 2. So most guitars have 6 strings, and we'll get into what they're called. Now this thing that I'm holding on to now, this is called the neck, also known as the fretboard. As you can see from a side profile view, it's flat, or at least it should be. If it isn't, you have the wrong instrument. So this flat thing is the fretboard, and this is where all the magic happens. You see how smooth the backside is? That's where your hand goes. Okay. Moving on. This down here is called the body of the guitar. It kind of strangely resembles some bodies. So on this body you're going to find this hole. And this hole is called the sound hole. That's where the vibrations that go in come back out. This is where all the volume comes from. So the strings pass over the hole, over the fretboard, but they come from this section here, and this section is called the bridge, or the tailpiece, or the saddle. This part right here has these pins that hold the strings inside the guitar so they don't pop out, because they're under very high tension. And you can find that out by pulling on the strings yourself. So, this is the body, this is the bridge, these are your strings. There are 6. They go up on top of the fretboard, along the neck, and they reach the headstock, and they go into these pegs, or sorry, these tuning pins, and we turn these pins to tighten the strings. So, you might have a different style of guitar. You might have what we call a classical guitar, and those usually have 3 to 4 nylon strings. Those are lighter. Also, your fretboard might be a lot wider than mine. You might also notice that on your guitar there may be these dots inside or on the neck. So those help you figure out where you are while you're playing, but you don't know what they mean yet, and that's okay. Mine are located on the sides, actually not that side, they're located on the sides. Okay, so we're nearing the 5-minute mark. You will have either this kind of guitar, so this standard dreadnought acoustic, or what they call the Western guitar. You may have a flamenco or classical style, and you may have an electric style. All of those are acceptable. Just make sure they have 6 strings, and we're going to get into what you can do with those strings. Last thing for this first segment is you may be using what we call a pick. So it looks like this. It's usually made out of plastic or some kind of nylon, and we can talk about how to play with the pick, or how to play using only your fingers. Lastly, we'll talk about technique. We'll talk about what you can do on the guitar, kind of styles you can play, kind of songs you can learn, and take it from there. So go ahead and pause the video, look at your guitar, identify the kind you have. So in about 5 minutes, I'll see you back here. Okay, so you just got done and you are resuming the video. So this is now the tuning segment. We're going to talk about how to tune your guitar. You've figured out where all the pieces are, how to identify the parts and all that stuff, but let's get into it. So before you can tune your guitar, you have to know, you have to have a tool for that, right? And some people some people have what they call a tuning fork, which is a piece of metal, and you hit it on something and hold it to your ear, and it would vibrate and send a note into your ear canal. Sounds primitive, I know, but it works really, really well, and it's good for your brain. But you probably don't have one of those. But you probably do have one of these. So if you have a smartphone, all you have to do is pull it up, go into your app store or however you get your applications, go in there and type in the search bar, Guitar Tuna. So that's Guitartuna. And when you get that, it should pull up this. When you see that green colored pick on a black background, hopefully the camera will focus on that. If not, type in Guitar Tuna and you'll know it because you'll see a little wave and a green colored pick. Okay, so you download that app called Guitar Tuna. Once it's done, you can open it up. When it's open, what you're going to see is this. I'll show it. Give me a moment. So that's what the loading screen looks like. And then you're going to see the headstock of the guitar. Now my guitar is not tuned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it be automatic. When you download it, it's going to be set to automatic for you. You're going to hit the topmost string, this one up here. You're just going to strike it however it feels natural. And the closer you hold the microphone of your phone to this sound hole, the more accurate the results will be on the application. So you're going to hit that string. I already know what that string is called, but this app is going to tell you how far you are away from the correct note. Now for me, if I just glance at it, it's going to say in red, low or too low, and then the pin is going to be all the way to the left-hand side. So let me show you. So that red pin is going to be way to the left, or in some cases it might be way to the right. And all you have to do is take your finger, well, two fingers, your thumb, your index, go up to this first tuning pin, and you're going to turn it while hitting that string until the pin on this guy is center aligned. So, and as you do this, so as you strike the note here with your right hand, your left hand is turning that tuning peg, that little knob, and making it tighter and making that pitch go up until we get closer to that center line. And at the end it should sound like that, and also on your app it will look like that. So that pin will be in the center, and it will be drawing a nice green line onto what they call E2, right? So that's where you want it to be. You're going to do this for all 6 of the strings. Again, they are programmed into this application so that when you strike the string, it knows what to look for, because the standard tuning, as we call it, is E, A, D, G, B, E. And in the next segment, we're going to talk about those names. We're going to talk about how you can remember them. But for now, use that application, go through each string, and make sure that everything is correct according to that app, okay? So again, close enough. That sounds like E2 to me. My next string, that's not right, so I've got to make it go up. And when you have the app open, it's going to tell you which direction to go. So just play with it until you get the right result you're looking for. Nice. That's A. So now I've got 2 strings strung and tuned. Now I'm going to take this break. You can go through all the rest of your strings and make sure that they're correct. Okay, so hopefully you've successfully tuned your guitar, which means that from top to bottom, you've gone E, A, D, G, B, and E. If you need a little more time, that's okay. Pause the video and continue. For those of you with a brand new guitar, you might notice that as you tune each string, as you tighten it or loosen it, that it kind of stretches out, and it you may not feel it stretching, but you can definitely see on the app, right, when you hit the note, all of a sudden after a few minutes it's wrong again. That's totally normal with a brand new guitar or when you change your strings. So just go back through it. If you feel like something's not quite right, if it doesn't sound clean or quite correct, then just go back through, make sure it's tuned, and use the app. Try to get it as perfect and close as you can to that center line. Now, another note, if you have strings that are really, really out of tune, I mean way out of tune, and a lot of beginning guitarists have this problem, they don't know where correct is. So sometimes when you hit the note, if it's so loose or so tight that the app can't even figure it out, leave a comment, maybe take a video of yourself doing it, and I can identify what the problem is. But typically, you just want to play with it, and a lot of times they're more loose than they need to be. So if they're really loose, that means they sound bassy and low-pitched. And if that's the case, just tighten it until you see something pop up on that app, okay? You can also hit the buttons directly on the application, so you can hit next to those tuning pegs, you can hit on those letters, right? So E, A, D, G, B, and E, you can hit those letters, and it will manually focus on that string alone, okay? So that's a good way to hone in on what the problem might be. All right, so now you've got all 6 of those strings tuned correctly. It's going to sound like a mess no matter how you hit it, and that's okay for now. But we need to learn what these string names are, because we need to identify them. If we can't identify them, then I can't tell you what to do and where to go. If I say, hey, go on the D string on the 2nd fret, now I know where that is, right? I know exactly where that is. Even though it took me a second, I was able to figure it out. Process of elimination. This one's D, so then I go 2nd fret, oh, that must be this guy right here. But how did I know that it was the D string? Well, I have it memorized. Every guitarist does. I'd be shocked if a famous guitarist out there didn't know what their string names were. But anyway, don't fret about it. Let's just work it out. So if you have a pen and paper, this is a good opportunity to use it. And I don't like using that stuff when I'm teaching guitar or when you're learning guitar, right? This is just for me. I want you to spend as much time playing as possible. But just to be sure you know what these string names are, I want you to write these things down, okay? I want you to write down the letter E. That's your 1st string up top, okay? I don't care what anyone says about which one's called number 1 and which one's called number 6, okay? What matters is that this string closest to your chin, the highest one up here, that's E. So write E down on a piece of paper. Cool. You can also finish that by writing Eddie. So big E and then Eddie, like the name. Then you're going to go to the 2nd one. And you're going to write A, either above it or below it, but write A next. And you can finish that by writing 8, like past tense to eat. 8. So Eddie, 8. Dynamite comes the 3rd one, so that's D. D is your 3rd one down, and that's dynamite. Okay? The next one down is called G. And that's going to be good. So you're going to say Eddie 8, dynamite, good. The last 2 are going to be B, so that's bye, B-Y-E, or goodbye, right? So E, A, D, G, B, and the last string, the one at the very bottom, is E again. So these are the same. Or they should be. So use your tuner, make sure they're correct. And this last one is called E. So Eddie 8, dynamite, goodbye, Eddie. Makes a lot of sense, right? So make sure that you have all those strings in your mind when you use these. So the names themselves, E, A, D, G, B, and E, they're just names, okay? But you need to know them for when you're tuning your guitar and when I'm identifying them by name. All right? So take 5 minutes, make sure it's all correct, and just get used to naming them, okay? And I'll see you in 5. Welcome back, class. So, now that we're done naming the strings, tuning them and all that, we need to get into how to hold the guitar. So, you have lots of choices when you're holding the guitar. Most guitarists will hold it on their right thigh, assuming you're all right-handed. It's very rare to see left-handed guitar players, though I have had them in class. For those of you who are left-handed, you're just going to do everything inverse of what I say. So it makes sense with most things you've probably learned so far in life. So if you're left-handed, it'll rest on your left thigh. If you're right-handed, it'll rest on your right thigh. Okay? Now, you might not know how to hold the darn thing, and that's normal too. I'm going to back out so you can see. When I let go with both hands, it should stay level. It should stay even, right? I could balance a plate of pasta right here. So that's what you want. If that's not being achieved, that means that something's wrong with the balance back here. And so what you want to do is make sure that that weight is going into this portion of the guitar. This is called the curve of your guitar, the bottom of the body. And so this little curve here rests on your thigh. Your arm cradles the top side. So this top portion, that's where your bicep goes. So all that flexing and lifting you've been doing, yeah, that's right, all that indoor bicep workout is going to go toward holding your guitar close to your rib cage, close to your chest. Don't death grip it for fear of actually, using those pec muscles too and breaking your guitar in half. Instead, you're just going to hold the body close to you so that your right hand can be above the sound hole. If your right hand is somewhere else, that means your arm position is off. If it's up here, well, your bicep's too far forward. And if it's back here, well, then your arm is too much behind the guitar. So you want it to be somewhere in between with your bicep kind of cradling the top, okay? And you just want you want to feel the edge kind of pushing into your bicep muscle, but it shouldn't be terribly uncomfortable. Enough so that you can get your fingers right here above the sound hole, okay? All right, so make sure that that weight of the guitar is resting on your thigh so that the headstock and the neck doesn't dip. You don't want any dolphining, okay? If your headstock goes for a dive, it's dangerous territory, okay? So here you are, you're holding it, and you should be able to take your left hand off. If you can take your left hand off, you're in good shape, all right? So here we are. Okay, now let's talk about hand positions. So we already said that the right hand should be over the sound hole. That means your palm, the palm of your right hand, should be somewhere around the saddle. This guy right here, this bridge section where the strings come out. That's where your wrist should be, more or less, okay? And I use this as an anchor position. Your left hand is actually going to go underneath the neck of the guitar. It's not going to go over, it's going to go under. And this is how we play. So the left hand thumb is going to press against the middle of the neck, okay? Some guitarists, some famous ones even, like Jimi Hendrix, they just death grip, they choke their neck, they have this thumb over the top. If you want to do that eventually, by all means. But for now, and having good technique, we're going to focus on keeping that knuckle of the thumb. So that knuckle right there, so that part of your thumb is going to go against the middle of the neck, okay? And you can kind of treat it as like a hitchhiking thumb, right? You want your thumb to be out so that your hand can go underneath. And so from the side view, it looks like that. All right? Now, we're not too concerned about these fingers just yet. We're going to get into that, don't worry. But for now, I really want to just emphasize that thumb position. Try to get it so that the middle point of your thumb is actually on the middle point of the neck. It's a good relationship between your thumb and the neck, okay? And again, your right hand should be anchored on the saddle or on the bridge, and your fingers should be just either on the back side of the sound hole or right above the sound hole. If they're up here, I don't know about that. If it's back here, I don't know about that either because there's no strings to hit. So take 5 minutes, make sure that you have this position down. It feels comfortable enough, and you can kind of get used to this weight in your hands, okay? So I'll see you in 5. Okay, we're going to slow things down a bit now for the next 6 segments. So for 30 minutes, you're going to learn all 6 of your strings doing what we call the chromatic scale. It's called the chromatic scale because it's colorful, because it has every single note in the musical alphabet. And don't worry, we're going to walk through it together. And this will train your left hand to have the correct positioning, okay? So with the positioning that you learned from the last segment, so everything on your right hand and your right thigh should all be comfortable. And for this, we're going to just strike with our thumb, just like that. I don't really care what you do with the other fingers, it doesn't matter to me, but what I'd like is for that thumb to do all the work for this part. And what we're going to do is, we're going to strike that string, that topmost string, that's called E. And with our left hand, we are going to change the note. Again, you don't have to have any music theory knowledge or even knowledge of the piano. I will help you through these notes. And just do them with me. The first one is called E. And now, with that proper thumb position, right in the middle of the neck on the back side, you're now going to take your index finger and you're going to plant it, tip first, right on that string. So right on the metal of that string. If you take a look, that flesh of my finger, I'm focusing on the tip. And that tip is pushing directly down onto the metal, okay? So you can see from the top angle, so from your perspective, it should be more of a top-down look. If your finger is like this, and it's flat, you're not going to get the right form. So this is incorrect. But this is correct. Alright, so you're curving around the bottom of the guitar with your hand, allowing your finger to go as direct and straight as possible onto the string, and you're going to strike the note. And that's a different note than the one we just heard. So take your hand off, the left hand, and just strike that top string with your thumb. That's E. Now we're going to put our index down. That's F. Again, you don't have to know why, you just have to know that it is, for now. So this is F on the first fret. The fret is the division on the fretboard. So this space right here is the first one. Now that you have the form from profile, let me show you dead on. That was F. Let's move to the second fret. That's F sharp. And notice, as I reach with my fingers, they're spreading out, but I'm maintaining a claw-like shape. If you feel yourself squishing your fingers together, try to break that habit now. It's going to help you in the long run. You want to spread out and stretch out and do finger yoga as much as you can, and spider walk your way up this string. So on the third fret, we have G. So again, E, F, F sharp, G. The next one is G sharp. This is our most stretched out position on the guitar. We are now going to relax and slide up to the next position. So we're going to relax our fingers and slide up with our index to the 5th fret position. This is number 5. And that's A. Now we put our middle finger down on the 6th one. That's A sharp. Our ring finger goes down on the 7th fret. That's B. Our pinky goes down next on the 8th. That's C. Again, this is our stretched out position, so we're going to slide with our index up to this one right here. So we slide up to 9 with our index, and that's C sharp. Next we have D. Our ring finger will play D sharp, and our pinky finger will play E again. So, if I did this quickly, it would be like this. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, slide, A sharp, B, C, slide, C sharp, D, D sharp, and E again. So take 5 minutes and practice this on your own with proper form and technique. Okay, so we're on to the home stretch. This is the end of the first session, the first hour-long session for beginning guitar. And we've covered actually a lot. And your fingers are probably hurting, which is a good thing. So you can feel rewarded. You can take a little bit of time off, maybe until Friday, wink wink, when your next class begins. And this will take time, but making sure you're comfortable with the guitar in your lap, making sure that your thumb is in the correct position behind the neck, making sure that your right hand feels comfortable and relaxed. These are the basics for getting started. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to start to piece together the puzzle of the fretboard. We're going to start unlocking the mysteries of the notes here on this neck. So what we did was we climbed our way up with this boring scale that plays all of the notes and you memorize the names. That's great. You don't actually have to memorize all of the note names. If you do, you're a wicked smart genius. But we're going to eventually start making all 6 strings sound great together when they're played together. That's what we would call an E major chord, and we're going to learn that next time. So how we produce chords is an essential part of playing guitar, and doing it with the correct form is not that much of a departure from what you just did with the chromatic scale. Let me repeat that. What you do to play chords correctly is basically what you just did with the chromatic scale. All of those little finger and muscle techniques you developed in day 1, you're going to use forever, as long as you're doing them correctly. So that means that when your index, middle, ring, and pinky fingers all go down on the strings correctly, directly, and on the tips, with good pressure and with good calluses underneath that skin, you're going to be able to play chords. And with that, you'll be able to play songs. And that's going to be really where the fun begins for you. I hope you're not too deterred from day 1. Everyone has some sort of discomfort when they're learning the guitar. It's not the easiest instrument, but it's also not the hardest. So, feel free to leave comments and questions. If you have any concerns or if there are things that I didn't cover that you would like me to cover in the next round of beginner guitar day 1, let me know that too. That helps. And really with that, just take this time to play the guitar. Play individual notes and don't worry if it sounds bad or good, because none of those things really matter. In fact, the better you get at guitar, the less it really matters whether something sounds objectively good or objectively bad. When you listen to jazz, a lot of the time, people who don't understand jazz, they think it sounds bad. They think that the person is screwing up in their solo, when in fact, they're playing a pretty elegant and thoughtful passage. But the normal layman, they're not going to be able to discern a good solo from a bad solo, and that's okay. The thing is, we're playing for ourselves. We're not really playing for the masses. I think that music is a wonderful way to connect to people. But in the end, it's you and your guitar. It's you expressing whatever your story is through the instrument. And my job, along with all the other pedagogists' jobs out there, is to just give you the tools and knowledge to unlock that version of yourself and allow you to pour whatever your story is and those contents into the sound that comes from your instrument, your musical instrument. So, take this time to really have fun with it. If it hurts too bad, then give it until Friday, at which point we will resume, we will learn some chords, and we will get closer and closer to playing some songs together and figuring out just what you want to accomplish on the instrument. So, with that, enjoy this week, and I'll see you in the next one.